No i dobra, jestem z powrotem, już mamy potwierdzone, będzie za chwilę Watch Dogs Legion na E3 Coliseum. Także ja już tutaj załączam transmisję, nawet przewinę, żebyśmy byli idealnie na żywo. Tu mamy w sumie tylko chyba trailer, także też go nie musimy oglądać tak naprawdę. No i cóż, kontynuujemy E3 Coliseum. Zobaczmy, co ciekawego powiedzą na temat tej gry, czego jeszcze my, mam nadzieję, nie słyszeliśmy, tak?
So yeah, that's all gone a bit shit. It's up to us to take our city back. Thing is, we can't do it alone. We need to recruit a resistance. I know what you're thinking. Where do we start? Open your eyes and take a look around. Look here. Look at him. No, not him. Him. Former MI5.
Duty never ends.
He can get anywhere and erase anyone. See her?
Let's kick those bastards out of London.
She got kicked out of Oxbridge Robotics School for teaching him to reproduce. And that fella over there, proper bellend.
Come on, come at me.
He'll crack your skull just for looking that funny.
Oczywiście, gang babci propsuje.
This had better be fucking good.
And allow me to introduce you to the deadliest of the lot. She's not old, she's experienced. Like I said, you can recruit anyone, and I mean bloody anyone. Him, her, everyone is a secret weapon. Find them, recruit them, build the resistance.
No, movement babci jest najlepszy, dokładnie. Jakby jestem trochę przerażony, ile zajebistych gier wyjdzie w przyszłym roku, naprawdę. Masakra.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here. I'm Andrian. I work on the Watch Dogs Legion team out of Ubisoft Toronto. Welcome to our panel at the E3 Coliseum. We're going to be giving you a little bit more of a look at Watch Dogs Legion, which we just announced. And to do so, I'm going to introduce two people on the stage with me. First of all, we have our creative director, Clint Hawkin, and we have our game design director, Kent Hudson. Please give them a round of applause.
No właśnie, to jest najgorsze, że mało czasu na grę i one jeszcze wszystkie póki co w większości wychodzą na wiosnę przyszłego roku. Legion chyba też. Zagraj w Legion, w Cyberpunka, w Dying Lighta, w Avengersy, kurwa w przeciągu 3 miesięcy. To są olbrzymie gry. Niemożliwe. Dlatego trzeba będzie grać tylko w Cyberpunka, no ale później cała reszta będzie do ogrania.
Get it out into the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, like I said, we're going to be giving you a little bit more of a look at Watch Dogs Legion. We're going to start with you, Clint.
Sure.
So give us a bit of an elevator pitch. Just what is Watch Dogs Legion for somebody who has been under a rock for like the last few days?
Right. So Watch Dogs Legion is set in a near future version of London where we look at a lot of the sort of core thematic issues that previous Watch Dogs game have looked at, like how technology is used both to liberate and oppress, how people in power like abuse their wealth and their authority and all of that kind of stuff. And we've taken those things and kind of turned them up to 11 and set the game in our near future version of London where, you know, the government is collapsing, the economy's collapsed, private security forces have kind of been empowered to like replace the police and military, you know, the surveillance apparatus of the UK, which is, you know, the Allied surveillance apparatus since World War II is the most powerful surveillance apparatus in history, but now it's being turned inward against the people. Their freedoms are being taken away, people are disappearing. And in Watch Dogs Legion, your job is to build a popular resistance to fight back against the emergence of an authoritarian regime, and you do that by picking any Londoner from the world, profiling them, looking into their lives, figuring out what their challenges are, playing their origin mission, recruiting them into your team, making them a member of your resistance movement. And anyone in the game can be your next playable hero and the star of your story.
Anyone at all.
Absolutely anyone.
And we saw the granny in the... who's a fan of granny from the trailer?
Me. Shut up and take my money for the granny.
So why London?
You know, London is an incredible city. There's this sort of cliche vision of London of like people with funny accents and you know, it's always gray and foggy and like, you know, rainy all the time. Actually, London is an incredibly diverse and colorful city. It's full of life and energy. It's got all these different neighborhoods, boroughs, and districts that have very unique flavors and characteristics. There's like more than 200 languages spoken in London. And, you know, we come from a very diverse city ourselves, Toronto, but London puts Toronto even to shame, and it is unreal. In a game where you can play as anyone, literally any Londoner you can bring in your team, it made sense to look at a city where that choice would be, you know, would be meaningful, you know, like the more diversity and richness that you can have, the better that experience is going to be.
Awesome. Okay, well, we know what you want to see, so we're going to cut to some gameplay right now, and we're going to have Kent and Clint talk a little bit over it and give you some more details about what you're going to be watching. So
Cool.
We have a walkthrough of a mission, right?
Let's hear it.
Czy to jest to samo, co było, czy nie?
Is there sound? Is there supposed to be sound?
There would be some. Hey.
There we go. Now it's a right mess. Government's fucked off.
Niestety to będzie ten sam gameplay, który pokazywano wcześniej. Szkoda.
Organised crime slicing up the boroughs. The war dogs are out. And freedom's a bloody joke. But this ain't their London. This is our London. And there's a new power growing. It's all of us, together. We're building a resistance, one recruit at a time.
What's my favourite operative up to this evening? And no, I never say that to the others.
Scouting talent, Bagley. So gob shut, eyes peeled, yeah?
I have no eyes.
So yeah, we're going to be watching the gameplay, and first of all, you touched a little bit on the themes, right?
Right.
About like, you know, the loss of freedoms and stuff like that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. So this is Piccadilly Circus. It's sort of one of the sort of central you know, public areas of London in Soho. It's where all the theaters are. But here in our version of Piccadilly Circus, there's a riot drone up in the corner there. Albion are the private military company who's sort of taken over control of policing in the city. You see an Albion guy like stopping and doing an ID check on a civilian there and kind of intimidating her. He even points his rifle at her. In London today, even the police don't have guns. They don't carry guns. But here now you've got a London where there are literally armed private mercenaries like controlling people in the street. And here Ian's you know, walking through the crowd. The mission here is, you know, because of these drones, they're looking for a new recruit who might have an ability that could help them fight against drones. And so he's profiling people in the crowd, you know, classic Watch Dogs gameplay, looking for different traits or abilities that would help people. Here he spots a potential recruit. This is Jimmy. But unfortunately, Jimmy's like wanted by Albion, and so everything in the profile is real, right? Jimmy is a real character. He has a life, he has a home, he has jobs, he has friends, he has a family. Every single person in London is fully simulated, and Jimmy happens to be a character who's wanted by Albion. So just as Jimmy happens to be walking by, he gets spotted by that guard. He's about to do an IG check. Jimmy tries to bolt, and Ian, our hero, kind of runs in, engages the security. The drone sees it, arms up, and comes in to take him out. And Ian goes down. Now this is sort of a beginning to our permadeath loop here. Ian's now critically wounded, and he chose to, instead of surrendering, he could have surrendered, been arrested, would sit in jail, and you'd be able to bust him out. But instead he chose to get up and keep fighting, used his AR cloak to kind of hide himself and escape. Now he's being chased.
You mentioned permadeath, so that means you can lose operatives. Like
Absolutely. So again, all of the characters in your team are people you choose from the world, you recruit into your team, you help them with their problems, you make them playable, but they can also die just like anybody else in the world, and they continue living their lives even once they're on your team. If you're not playing a character, say you recruit a bartender, if you're not playing him, then he's going to go to work in the bar, and then when you swap to him, he might be in the bar when you do it.
Okay.
And then here, Ian was persistent, got in a bit of a mess. Drones came after him. Albion pinned him down in Trafalgar Square. Ian, because he got up and continued fighting, didn't escape. Now he's dead.
He's gone. Okay.
He's gone.
All right. So Kent, let's talk a little bit about play. How do you make London, how do you make people in London playable? How do you make anyone playable?
It's pretty hard. You build ground up from the city, and as Clint said, London's a super diverse city, so many different neighborhoods. And so we actually map where people live and where they work to those neighborhoods, and we kind of construct. We've got this big background database that we call Census, which is some technology we've really invested in on the team that has genders, races, places people are born, sexual orientation, like all this information that we start to construct people out of. And we almost build from the ground up on each character. And it's not just random. It's not like it's a bucket of trivia where we just say, oh, let's just roll the dice and throw it. It's actually curated. So someone from this part of town would work at this kind of place, which means they'd have these kind of friends, which means that they would live and work around here. So
no kurwa, ta baza danych to musi być tak pojebane do stworzenia, że wow.
Having a main character in your game, that means everyone has to be a main character, which means that they have to have, they've got to look great, they've got to dress how you would expect, they've got to have their own persona, they've got to have their own animation sets. And so we've got tons of voice actors, we've got different archetypes that we, animate people with so that people move and talk in the way that you would expect from what you see. And it's just a hugely, complex background thing that we simulate these people from, but we all kind of stitch it together. Helen.
Give it up for Helen.
Yeah. So Helen, for example, she has a full backstory of what she's retired now, but what she used to do, and her age obviously influences her animation style and the way that she speaks and things like that. So we really construct all of that from the ground up in a really rich simulation to create these characters.
Ja jestem ciekaw, czy jeżeli się nie gra jakąś postacią, czy ona może wpaść w tarapaty, bo z tego, co tutaj było powiedziane, to oni jakby, kiedy się nim nie gra, dalej żyją swoim życiem. To jest świetne.
Gunfight. Yeah, if you're not in the middle of a gunfight, but yes, we actually encourage you to swap between your operatives because we really want you to feel like you've got this resistance movement that has sort of fingers everywhere in the city. In fact, if you look at the map in the game, if you open it up to sort of see, oh, where's my mission going to be, or where's maybe an opportunity to go see, you can actually see icons of all your people in the world. Like Clint mentioned, they are living their lives. They're working at the bar.
To, co właśnie przed chwilą mówiłem.
With their friends, or they're visiting their mother at the hospital, whatever it is. And if you see someone who, a lot of times, they're almost like a little miniature fast travel network for you. You say, oh, my mission's over here, let me put my map to set a waypoint. Oh, look, Brenda's right over there. I'm just going to flip over to her, and I enter her life. Sometimes she's sitting at a table having a drink with a friend. Sometimes, she could be doing yoga in the park, whatever it is. So you can switch between these people, and you're kind of encouraged to do so.
To brzmi tak przezajebiście. Jezus Maria, jak mi się ta gra podoba.
First of all, that's really cool that you can ride that particular drone. You can take control of them and just ride them into battle. But talk a little bit about the classes, because we've seen 3 different classes, I think, at this point, right?
Yeah, so as a way to make people a little bit more distinct when they come onto your team in DedSec, we've got 3 different classes in the game. So high-level overview, we've got an Enforcer, which is sort of your run-and-gun class. We've got the Infiltrator class, which is sort of stealth and melee. And then, of course, the Hacker class. And each class has its own special ability. So the Enforcer has a sticky mine. It's a non-lethal explosion that you can sort of lay traps in the environment or use it in combat. The Infiltrator has what we call an AR cloak. In our version of London, the government has actually mandated that everybody be implanted with an AR device. You'll actually see it in the cutscenes in the demo that they've got this little thing here on their face. So everybody's seeing AR in front of their face at all times. And the Infiltrator can actually say, all the guards around me, hack into their devices and delete themselves from the guard's view by doing a fuzzy overlay of what's behind them. So it's actually like a temporary invisibility. We saw it at the beginning of the demo with Ian when he ran to the car. And then the Hacker class is sort of a hybrid class. It's got a spider bot that you can control, and that spider bot functions as a non-lethal turret in the world. If you just chuck a couple down in combat, then they'll help you fight, but you can also take over the spider bot and sneak around levels, crawl through vents, take guards down silently. Sometimes you can complete the entire objective without ever even entering the location. So those are our 3 classes.
That's awesome. Okay, back to you, Clint. Sure. Play as anyone. You've mentioned it. It's an innovation, but talk about it from a design perspective. Why? What prompted that?
I really think it goes back to those themes we were talking about at the beginning, sort of like the problems in the world, threats to our democracy, the wealth gap, massive unemployment, migration crises around the world. We were looking at these kinds of problems saying, we want to talk about those things. Watch Dogs as a brand talks about those things. And if we want to go further and go a little near future, we got to look at those things as well. And I think our feeling was, the solution, one of the problems I see personally in the world is that people are being divided against each other, and all of these powerful forces are benefiting from us fighting each other over stupid shit. And what I think, it's my feeling is that we need to get better at putting our differences, putting aside our differences and trying to understand one another better, coming together collectively to try to solve the real problems that we're facing that are starting to get out of control. And that's really, I think, what Play As Anyone means for me. It's about people working together to try and make the world a better place and a better tomorrow for our kids and for everyone.
Okay.
And I also think that when you look at resistance movements in the past, you often see that, if the soldiers are off fighting the war, sometimes it is ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances who have to come together and fight back. So it actually is true to that spirit of resistance as well, I think.
Right.
And then on the other side of things, Watch Dogs is known for hacking, right? So tell us a little bit about how hacking works in this game, because it's still there.
Of course. Very true to the brand legacy. So hacking is, of course you can hack things in the world. We've got gameplay ingredients that you can use to distract guards or do takedowns and things like that. We've also got an entire new suite of drones in the game. So the skies are constantly filled with drones flitting by, and some of them are very innocuous. They're delivery drones dropping packages for people, but the private military contractors also have some very fierce combat drones that patrol layouts. They're called on you if you alert the guards. And so you can actually, the hacker class is able to take those over and actually turn them against the enemy. So you can actually see the big CT drone come in on the sky with the machine guns going, and you say, flip it up, all of a sudden your viewpoint shifts up to here and you're flying the thing and you behind enemy lines and you take the guys out that way. So there's that kind of hacking. And then we've also, in the previous games, we've had what we call the mass hacks or the sort of the really spectacular hacks. We've actually moved a lot of that into the actual team at this point. So we've actually moved hacking onto the team. So now you can recruit people to your team who have the ability to do these spectacular hacks. So one of my favorite ones is if you're being pursued by the private military contractors, one of your operatives will actually pop up and say, hey, you look like you use a little help. And you say, yeah, please, they're on me. And you'll actually see the cars that are chasing you get hacked to start crashing off the road. A drone comes in, is getting ready to shoot your car, and then it just falls out of the sky and lands on the ground. And so you get that sense that you're playing as a team and that the people you've recruited from the world, you pick that guy because he had that ability, but based on his backstory, based on maybe he's an IT specialist or something like that, So now he's on my team, he's helping me, and so the more you recruit to the team and the bigger team you build with those specializations.
Jak oni opowiadają o tych, oni za każdym razem praktycznie opowiadają o innej zależności i to jest pojebane i to są tylko przykłady. To jest nic w porównaniu do tego, co oni są w stanie symulować.
Because it seems like that's going to be extremely important. You're trying to build a team of anybody. You can play as anyone. How do you go about that? Like we saw on the profilers, some people have specific specific things that you can help them with. You kind of intervene in their lives and then try and improve their their opinion of DedSec in that way.
Yeah, so that's a good point you started on, the opinion of DedSec. Part of the simulation in our world is that everybody has a different feeling about DedSec, especially early in the game when people might not be so familiar with the movement. Some people are really against DedSec. They don't understand what's going on. Some people like them more. And so everybody's got what we call their support level. So how much do they support what we're doing? And when you first profile someone in the world, you basically look at that. It's just, it's kind of presented as a meter on the screen. And you say, wow, I've got to really get their support up to the point where they're willing to join my team. It's not like you're just walking around the world saying, oh, you look cool. Boop, you're on the team now. So you start to dig into their lives, you profile them, you scan their lives. We've got a really cool map view where you can actually see where they're going to be during the day, and you start to investigate their problems. And maybe they're being harassed by the the PMCs, or maybe they're in debt to the crime families because they had to buy some medical treatment because their health organization collapsed, and things like that. And so you figure these things out, and then you go actually try to help them get over those problems and show them the DedSec's here to support them and is here to try to make the world better. And there's all different ways you can do it. The consequences of how you do it is different. If someone's got a loan shark, for example, and you say, oh, easy, right? I go beat up the loan shark, and this person, oh, cool, I cleared your loan, you're on the team now, great. That loan shark's also a potential playable character in the world. Literally everyone is simulated. The guards that you shoot at in a level are simulated. They have families and lives. So if you just walk up and take the easy way out and shoot that guy in the head, you know, his sister and his mom and other people he knows in the world suddenly hate DedSec because, like, wait a minute, DedSec just killed this guy. Like, what? So all of a sudden now you've got more opposition in the world. So you have to think about the consequences of what you're doing. So it's really free form how you can bring people on your team, and there's sort of a lot of different.
To, co on właśnie powiedział, jest zajebiste, że nawet strażnicy, właśnie, że to, że zabijanie strażników na przykład może spowodować to, że mniej osób będzie chciało dołączyć.
The actions that you have in the world, I'm assuming that there's non-lethal alternatives to taking people out.
Absolutely. That's something that's really important to me personally, and it's something the team has really embraced as well. You know, for example, almost half of the weapons in our game are non-lethal. So even if you really like run and gun gameplay, you love the cover shooting, you know, you want to go in guns blazing, you can go guns sizzling, maybe? Maybe something a little less of that. But yeah, so we've got 4 different types of non-lethal weapons, so even mechanically they're different and interesting. And that actually matters because if you go through a level and you're not killing everybody, they have, you know, that support meter slides less and you're not creating those enemies in the world. We've also got a really robust melee system that we've really invested in compared to the previous games where it's sort of like a rock, paper, scissors, dodge, grapple, punch system that you've got to you know, think more tactically in the melee. And we've invested a lot in stealth, and so you can play whole levels just stealthy without ever pulling a gun. And one of the really cool things that we're excited about is that
I podejrzewam, że tak będę grać w tą grę.
the enemies won't pull a gun either. So if I'm stealthing through a level and I get spotted, and he's like, hey, stop, you know, he'll come and first try to de-escalate it melee, and if I can win that melee fight with him, level cools back down, no one went hot, and I can actually return to that stealth gameplay and keep going. So we really try not to force you into those situations. And so yeah, we're really trying to support the non-lethal gameplay. We obviously do have, you know, lethal weapons as well. You can play that way, you're free to. But you know, in our game it does have different consequences. So it is something you have to consider a little bit more than in other games.
Okay, I'm going to pop some quick questions to the both of you before we end.
I've talked a lot. You should take some of these.
Which is your favorite class, Clint?
My favorite class? I think I'm an infiltrator at heart. I mean, I worked on the Splinter Cell games, and I like sneaking around.
No, oby te gry nie pojawiły się, a miał być hit.
It's a coin flip for me between infiltrator and hacker. Because the hacker, if you play it with the spider, you can be stealthy, you can do the stealth takedowns and stuff like that. So it depends on what day you ask me, but those are my 2 favorites.
Can we have a granny class? That's going to be mine.
A granny class?
Yeah, just
No,
just
grannies
for
can
her.
have every class.
Yeah.
One of
Yeah,
my
that's a
favorite
good point.
characters is an enforcer granny. Yeah, she's awesome. Granny with a machine gun, like, takes the run and gun perk so she moves really fast when she's aiming down iron sights. It's amazing.
Yeah, when you find people in the world, they don't have a class predetermined. They're kind of a blank slate other than that one gameplay trait. So you can actually make surprising combinations. You can decide what class they're going to be once they join the team. So you can really get creative with your builds.
All right, cool. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. I guess one last question to ask, which is, when is Watch Dogs Legion coming out and on what platforms?
March 6, 2020,
Yeah.
on PlayStation platforms, Xbox platforms, and
PC and Stadia.
PC and Stadia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So hope you enjoyed that.
No to będzie, nie wiem, czy to się da przejść w 1,5 miesiąca przed Cyberpunkiem, bo jakby wiecie, no jak wyjdzie Cyberpunk, to się nie gra w nic innego, tylko Cyberpunka się napierdala 3 razy pod rząd całą fabułę. Na 100%. No spoko, mi się bardzo ta gra podoba, bardzo czekam. Następny jest tutaj Doom Eternal, czego ja oglądać nie chcę, dlatego też robimy sobie przerwę od Coliseum.
In my head.